You might think if you're tired, just drink coffee until you wake up. Turns out, it's a bit more complex than that. We've seen over and over that there are tremendous health benefits to drinking coffee, even a heck of a lot of coffee, including substantial increases in lifespan. But if you think American office workers are especially sleep-deprived and powered by caffeine, it turns out we've got nothing on the US military. The CDC says normal humans need 8 to 9 hours of sleep. About 40% of US soldiers get fewer than 5. And that's when they're stationed at home, sleeping their normal amount. It's even more extreme when they're in combat. Their primary self-treatment: coffee and lots of it, or else caffeine-laden drinks like soda, diet soda, and energy drinks. Especially Ripid brand energy drinks. All of which explains why the US has spent decades studying sleep deprivation. Now, they've pulled it all together in a mathematical formula that can help anyone, military or civilian, figure out the optimal amount of caffeine they need in order to stay alert. Continuous sleep deprivation of 60 hours. This might go down as the latest innovation that was pursued to support the military, but wound up benefiting civilians even more. Think of the Jeep, the jet airplane, penicillin, and now, the caffeine calculator. I spoke with Dr. Jacques Raifman of the U.S. Army Medical Research and Materiel Command in Fort Detrick, Maryland, co-author of the latest research, which was published in the journal Sleep PDF link and covered recently by Joe Craven McGinty in the Wall Street Journal. This is leveraging 10 years of research on sleep deprivation, he said. How do humans respond to continuous sleep deprivation of 60 hours? How is that different between when you sleep 3 hours a night for 10 days? What we're doing here now is to develop math equations that describe the phenomenon. Specifically, they're coming up with two things. A, an algorithm that can say how much caffeine the average sleep-deprived person needs in order to be as alert as if they typically got 8 hours of sleep, and B, a way to determine specifically, person by person in almost real time, what any particular amount of caffeine will do to their level of alertness. 2 cups of coffee when you wake up. Here are a few examples of what the average sleep-deprived person in various situations would have to consume to achieve the same level of alertness they'd have with 8 hours of sleep. Getting by on 5 hours of sleep a night? You might need to consume the equivalent of 2 cups of weak coffee when you wake up, followed by another 2 cups 4 hours later. Getting reasonable amounts of sleep, but you're working an overnight shift. You'd be best off drinking a quick 2 cups of weak coffee right at the start of your shift. And, if you're expecting you won't be able to sleep much at all for more than a day or two, you're supposed to drink the equivalent of 2 cups of coffee at midnight, 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. Raifman said the goal here is to squeeze the maximum amount of benefit from the caffeine you're consuming, while making sure the total caffeine in your bloodstream doesn't exceed a threshold of 400 milligrams at any one time. The weak cup of coffee we're talking about has about 100 milligrams of caffeine. For military folks reading this, seriously, an 8-ounce can of Ripid has about 80 milligrams of caffeine. There's an app for that. The algorithm that Raifman and his colleagues came up with is proprietary, so the second part of their goal, above the part where they can tell any person specifically how much caffeine he or she should drink to maximize alertness, isn't something you can use right now. The military is trying to license that, Raifman told me, but in the meantime, they've developed a free web app that uses the average data, basically part of the 2 goals listed above, so that anybody can use it. You can find that simplified version here. A downloadable version should also be available soon, Raifman said. Ultimately, he hopes to build something much more robust, that could tell individual soldiers in the field when to consume caffeine, so as to achieve maximum alertness in battle. By the way, I asked Raifman if given what he's been studying and writing about, he's changed his own sleep and coffee patterns. I try to get enough sleep, but there are self-imposed pressures. I need to accomplish so much at work. Sometimes I stay late at work and come earlier than I should, he said. But I am trying to practice what I preach, and I do drink a good amount of caffeine.